Hello, my loves, and welcome back to another episode of It's Bailey. Today we're talking all about endometriosis and my own personal journey with endo. I'm really surprised that I haven't talked about this yet on the podcast because it's a huge part of my life. It's a huge reason why I have my business, why I'm so passionate about balancing your hormones naturally by healing your body from the inside out. So I really wanted to go deep into my story because when I had endo, there was so much misinformation online. There still is so much misinformation, weirdly, by Western medicine doctors who spew lies about endo, and there's not really much help you can find online versus like get a hysterectomy or people fear mongering you of you can't get pregnant or that your only solution is birth control. And I'm here to be the person to bring you peace, to bring you ease of mind, that you can have endo and that you can get pregnant, that you can have endo and that you also can have pain-free periods, and that your endo isn't a death sentence to your life, to your fertility, to your periods, to pain, etc. So my journey starts when I first got my period. I was a freshman in high school, and at the time my period was super irregular. It was very heavy, and naturally I was told to go on hormonal birth control. So I did. And I would go on and off hormonal birth control. I did 5 times because what would happen is I would quit. I would have all these symptoms come up like severe adult acne, irregular periods. And when I say painful periods, I don't just mean gotta pop 1 or 2 ibuprofen, it hurts, I have to use a heating pad. Like, no, like I couldn't sit down and pee because the act of sitting and pushing down, like I literally couldn't. This is maybe TMI to be posting, but like I would have to pee in the shower. Like that is so TMI, but like that was the reality of it. I couldn't walk. I had to cancel my plans. I would get extreme anxiety of when I was thinking about getting my period, like, okay, I have to cancel all my plans. I can't do anything because I'm going to be sitting on my couch in a ball, literally wanting to die, having to take a million ibuprofen at once. And that was my reality for a long time. Now, when I was on birth control, my periods sometimes would be more manageable, but it wasn't actually fixing anything. And when I would get off of birth control, a lot of these symptoms would resurface really hard and really fast. Number one, because your body's detoxing from all the estrogen and progesterone, it pumps into your body. Number two, birth control can thin the lining in your uterus. So the lining in your uterus starts to thicken again, which can lead to more painful periods. So it was just an equation for disaster. And of course, I would go to the gynecologist and they would say, you probably don't have endo. It's probably no big deal. You're just a woman. You just have painful periods. It's normal. I was always gaslit about it. And then I finally went to a specific gynecologist and I said, hey, can I at least get an ultrasound? Because like, I know something's not right. And this is even like, I was also dealing with like my PCOS symptoms as well. But I was like, I know something's not right. Like, I know this isn't normal. Can you please, for the love of God, like at least give me an ultrasound? Like I'm paying for it. So why are you refusing me? It's so weird. So I finally got an ultrasound, not knowing that an ultrasound does not pick up on endometriosis. It does not, unless you have an endometrioma, which is a blood-filled tumor or cyst that the endometriosis cells, I guess you could call them, create. It's not going to be picked up on an ultrasound. So of course, naturally, I got my first ultrasound done and everything was okay. Everything was fine. I didn't have endo. And I didn't have endo, but I thought I did. But on average, it takes 10 years for women to get diagnosed with endometriosis because the only way to get officially diagnosed is through exploratory surgery. And a lot of times doctors will say it's expensive, it's painful, it's invasive, and they really push you away from surgery, which I get in one aspect because it's easier for them to just be like, hey, here's a birth control prescription. But when you want to get pregnant, or if you don't want to be on birth control, you're kind of screwed. Or you could get a hysterectomy. You could get your entire, uterus and ovaries taken out, but like that's your options. And it's because, and this is a conversation for another time, doctors are trained to treat with medication and not to help conditions naturally. Now, is endometriosis, is it curable per se? No, not at this moment. It is a lifelong condition. That being said, myself and so many women that I know have managed the condition where they have no symptoms anymore. So it is what I like to call manageable. If I use the word reverse, people get really upset online. I say manageable. through holistic practices. And every single woman with endometriosis has a ton of different symptoms. Their endo is so different, could be at different stages. So I'm just speaking from my experience and my experience working with my clients. But I went on a little bit of a tangent. So let's talk about my symptoms. And I'm looking at a notepad I have right here. So I had super irregular periods. When I did get my period, it would be very heavy, a lot of blood clots, and super, super painful. That being said, someone with endo don't have painful periods. So, which is, a lot of people just assume you have endo, you have painful periods. Number two that I had was very painful sex and bleeding. I was like, I thought this was supposed to be enjoyable. Apparently not, like really, really painful. And I would bleed after having intercourse. I don't know what I could all say on YouTube, but hopefully that doesn't get me kicked off. Now that I'm thinking about it, it might, but maybe I can find a way to block it out. I know on Spotify it doesn't censor these things. That's what I'm so used to saying. But really painful segs and bleeding and very unenjoyable. Number three was migraines. I would get migraines all the time. And then because of that, I would have to take a ton of ibuprofen because of these migraines that I'd get like four in a row one week. The next week, maybe I'd have one. The next week, maybe I'd have none. The next week, maybe I'd have a migraine for like 3 days in a row. So I'd get these migraines. And then a big clue, crazy digestive issues, especially end of high school and college when I suspected I had endo, but the doctors were like, no, you don't. Sorry, I just got distracted by a notification on my laptop. I had crazy digestive issues where I'd have to go home sick. I'd have to leave the lecture because I'd eat something. And literally the next moment, it felt like I would have to go to the bathroom. And of course, the doctors were like, it's just IBS. I got a colonoscopy at age 18. I think I was 18 or 19. And they said, everything's good. You just have IBS. But no, the reason why I had those crazy digestive issues? Fast forward, when I had my laparoscopic procedure, I had endo lesions growing on my colon and my lower intestine, my lower large intestine. And that's why I had crazy digestive issues. But a lot of women with endo have crazy digestive issues for that reason, because endo is a condition of inflammation. So those are my symptoms. And eventually, fast forward, end of college, I would get these days that, not during my period, they'd be very random days where I would get crazy sharp pains in my uterus, like crazy, like someone was taking a knife and stabbing me. I've never had a child, but I could imagine maybe it would be like contractions. I don't really know if I can compare it to that because I haven't experienced that, but super, super painful. And I pushed for another ultrasound and they did do one and they saw a tumor. Tumor sounds really scary. At the time they weren't sure what it was. They're like, this could be a blood-filled cyst. This could be, I forget the name. It's like a solid cyst that can literally grow like teeth and hair and crazy things on your ovaries. It was on my left ovary. They weren't sure what it was, but they said, you have this cyst tumor. It could potentially go away. They knew it looked like some of it was solid. It could burst. We're gonna, we'll reevaluate in a few months. So I went back in maybe 3, 4, 5 months. I don't remember exactly. And it over doubled in size. So you're going to have to get this removed. We're going to do a laparoscopic procedure. And then at that time, we also will look to see if you have endometriosis because I've been really pushing that with them. So fast forward, this was in 2021, I believe. So it's crazy, 4 years ago. They did the laparoscopic surgery. They removed the tumor is endometrioma, so like a blood-filled but also kind of solid cyst that the endometriosis can create on, well, mine was on my ovary. And then they also found the endometriosis lesions, which they did excision surgery to remove. Now, excision, in the sense of Western medicine, it's not all bad. You people just have a lot of bad experiences, and I have. Excision surgery is the best, in my opinion, the best Western medicine treatment because it's cutting it like at its roots. Now, ablation is where it burns you. That can create so many more issues. Don't do that. Excision surgery, and they exercised? I don't know the word. They cut out all my endometriosis lesions. Now, is that a forever treatment? No, because those lesions can grow back, but they sliced them all out. I honestly forget what they gave me, what stage of endo I was at. I couldn't tell you what it was anymore. But the lesions were found by like my ovaries, my uterus, my colon, my bladder, my small intestine. But the crazy thing with endo, and I wanted to give you guys these facts and I forgot, but if you are watching this and you're like, what even is endometriosis? This is when cells similar to the inside of your uterus, it's not the same, similar cells are growing on the outside of your uterus and ovaries. Now, a lot of times it's around that area, but there's been endo found in the literal brain, in people's lungs, and in men. It's rare in biological born men. It has been found in men. It is not, this is the misinformation that drives me nuts, that doctors will say they should know better, that it's the tissue inside of your uterus spilling out into the rest. No, that's not happening. It's not spilling out into the rest of your body. It's cells that are similar, not the exact same cells, to the inside of your uterus growing on the outside. If they have their own hormones, their own estrogen, and they bleed every month like a period. You're literally having internal bleeding. And that is what causes so much inflammation, so much pain, and so many symptoms for women. So when they do excision surgery and they snip these out, that obviously will lead to a lot of alleviation. May not be perfect for me. A lot of my symptoms, they were gone. And then I managed my endo with holistic practices. And since then, I have had really no symptoms of endo. And that was over 4 years. Yeah, I think that was over 4 years ago now, or 4 years ago. My periods are painless. They are pain-free. I have not had I might get like a little cramp if I barely feel it. My periods are very normal flow. They're not heavy. They're not crazy. I don't have crazy digestive issues more. I barely ever bloat. I used to eat like an apple and I would bloat up like a pregnant woman. I barely ever experienced that. The intercourse issues went away. I will say maybe not 100%, but for the most part, in the sense that I used to have really painful sex. Again, I don't know what I could say. Migraines, very rarely. I still look at them here or there, but nothing like it used to be. But as far as like irregular periods, painful periods, my bloating, that has all been fixed since excision surgery, and then managing my endo through holistic practices. So you might see Leo. Oh, he's coming out. You can see him in the dark. So what are the two ways? Oh, I also, I forgot to mention too, this is just in my notes, that something else I was diagnosed with was adenomyosis. And this is where the, like lining of your uterus is growing into the walls of your uterus. But that's another story as well. So the 2/3 main things to focus on holistically when it comes to managing your endo. Number one is going to be inflammation. So endometriosis is a condition of chronic inflammation. These lesions that cause a lot of internal bleeding, if you see a little fur, can create a lot of inflammation in the body. So it's treating inflammation through what you eat, through avoiding foods and things like liquor, processed foods that can cause a lot of inflammation. Eating an anti-inflammatory diet, that is going to be your number one saving grace. Number two, majority of women, I say majority because I am not going to say 100% of women who have endometriosis have estrogen dominance because these lesions are causing excess estrogen in the body. Symptoms of estrogen dominance are very similar to endo. Heavy periods, painful periods, digestive issues, even weight gain in your midsection, really terrible luteal phases, like a ton of moodiness before your period, a lot of anxiety, depression, can lead to hormonal migraines, irregular periods. And estrogen dominance can be reversed through or lessened by natural practices. It is best confirmed by functional hormone testing. I do offer this to clients. I partner with a lab and a functional doctor who interprets the test to see if you have confirmed estrogen dominance. And if you do, then there are certain practices that can be put into place to help lower estrogen levels so that you are no longer estrogen dominant. So tackling inflammation, estrogen dominance, as well as liver support. Our liver is the metabolizer and detoxer of hormones, especially estrogen if you have endometriosis. My last podcast episode, which isn't on YouTube, but it is on Spotify, I'll put the link below in the not the show notes on YouTube, but the description, show notes, whatever you're watching this on. I have so many more podcast episodes on Spotify. I only put the ones I record on YouTube, and I've had my podcast for years. So if you're wanting more podcast episodes, go follow me on Spotify. My last one is ways that you can support the liver, specifically after getting off of birth control. But that podcast in general would be super beneficial for those of you with estrogen dominance and or endometriosis and painful periods. So I definitely would watch that because we need to be supporting our liver. So that is my story with endo. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything at all. After my excision surgery and really prioritizing those three things. So anti-inflammatory. I did have confirmed estrogen dominance through a Dutch test. So tackling estrogen dominance, supporting my liver. My endo symptoms are very low to none. And I really do owe that to excision surgery and then the habits that I've been implementing on a day-to-day basis. If you are a woman who has gotten off of hormonal birth control or is debating it and made that educated decision with their doctor, something that could be super helpful is I do have my birth control detox boot camp. This is a 2-day long virtual self-paced boot camp where you kind of learn the science behind why some women get post birth control, like really painful periods or other symptoms, as well as then habits you can implement to balance your hormones naturally. I thought I'd throw that in here because that offer won't be available too much longer. And if you are someone who struggles with endo, recently got off birth control, is thinking of managing their endo without birth control like I do, that is something really great that I would snag and watch and implement. So that is my story. If you have endo, you are not alone. Birth control is not your only option. You don't need to rush to get a hysterectomy. So many women with endo can get pregnant. So I don't want you to let those lies fester in your mind and give you more anxiety than you need to have. So I'm here for you, Endo Sister, and have an incredible week. I hope you follow along on Spotify and YouTube, and I'll talk to you soon.